All right. Apparently, Dom is calling.
Sorry, bro. I think you say the word. Yo, what's up?
How you doing, brother?
I'm fucking ready, bro.
Holy, bro. You sound slim, dude. You sound... I need to look at you. I need to look at you, man.
How do I look, bro? Be honest.
Don't tell me you're wearing that C9 hoodie, the Puma.
No, I'm not. I'm wearing a different one, bro.
That's a different Puma.
Yeah, bro, of course.
But it's still Puma.
Dude, of course, bro. Half my clothes are fucking Puma, bro.
Wait, where are you?
I got that shit for free.
Well, your screen is... the screen is dark for me. I don't see you.
Oh, shit. Interesting. No, my stream is working, I'm pretty sure.
I think it might be like... Oh, there you are. Totally. Wait, now it's black again. I see you for one moment. I keep refreshing, and then I'm gonna like see you like
just
in
refresh
fragments.
a bunch of times, and then you'll see me, bro.
Bro, you actually, bro, even with the hoodie on, you can see in your face, bro. You can see in your face. What a fucking difference.
I've been fucking going, bro. I told you, bro. I've been fucking going, man.
That is crazy, man. That is
Let's
insane.
fucking go. Why not?
That is crazy, dude. I'm fucking proud of you. I know why I don't see you. I have this plugin that makes everything dark. Bro,
oh, nice.
That was a different man. Look at him.
Yes,
Holy
sir.
Shit, dude.
Yes, sir, bro. You and Gilius told me to fucking get in that gym. I told you I wasn't fucking playing around.
Holy moly.
Yes, sir. All right, so, bro, how are we gonna do this? So I figured we'd start out by saying what our credentials were for our top 25 because we both did ours like a little bit differently, and the way that we came up with it, weighted it, everything.
Yeah. Okay. Like on my end, I basically like did lists of players in each positions where I went down to like 7th, 8th, 9th, and then I basically I took in account. I put heavier weight on what the player has done throughout the whole year because of the break, the distance between the last best of 5 coming into like the World Championship. Because in my mind, it's like your body of work. Actually, I estimate that higher, especially it's like the summer as a whole, because I think a lot of people they are down on like, for example, Billy, but it's like if I look at Billy's summer and I subtract like the LNG BO5 and also like the JDG BO5, it's like they struggle with the conversion into the patch with like Elk playing no longer affiliates, whatever, and they like are weaker in that moment, but they were so fucking strong the whole year. So I put those players up there, you know?
Yeah.
On my end, basically, I went down the list and then I looked at top 1 on each position. And then I compared whoever is next in each role to the others that is like next in line in my queue of those individual players. And then I just evaluate, it's like, yo, is the mid lane pool just tougher to, it's like mid lane in general, tougher role, harder to play. Then I'm going to evaluate that higher, the opposition that he had, and how big of a jump there is to the next player and so forth, and what they had to go through to get to the point, you know. That it's like a bunch of assessments and a little bit of gut feeling in terms of everything that's been watched so far as well.
Yeah, I think so. I did mine similarly, but I think I put higher value on summer. Like I was really just looking at like summer plus, so I didn't put too much into like MSI, for example, because if I did, then like I would have Chovy a lot lower, I would have Genji players a lot lower, and then I would have Billy players a lot higher. So I did mainly like summer and then summer playoffs as what I was evaluating. I tried to do it more based off how I thought instead of my like who I think are the best players, I did it based off like how I think they actually performed in the moments. If I just look at the work and try to be as unbiased as possible. So for example, I think Canyon and Showmaker are the best 2 players on Dom 1, but I have Deft in my top 25 because I think he performed better than those 2 players, even though I don't think he's as good as them. Like I'm trying to just do it based off like how I think they actually performed in all the moments. There's some players that it's like hard for me to evaluate. Like I think cross regional, it's pretty hard. Like Mickey X, for example. I mean, I think he's the best Western player. He's the only Western player that I have on my list. We'll get into it. I'm assuming it's the same for you.
Yep.
It's hard for me to like value him. Like even though he's had a really consistent year, I think it's easier to have a consistent year when you're in Europe as compared to like LCK and LPL. And then it was like, there was a couple of players that was hard for me to evaluate. Carry is one that was really hard for me to evaluate because I feel like he's just a mega emotional player when I look at him. Like, I mean, just even looking at his reactions after World Finals. and just the way he played with Faker versus without Faker, it's very hard for me to place where he actually was. So that's one that I'm kind of up in the air on. But I think in general, I just tried to make it more about Summer and more about like how they actually played as opposed to what I think of all the players, because there's some players that I don't actually, I know they didn't perform that well, but I think are good as fuck, for example. So I tried to do it more on the side of like being as unbiased as possible. So yeah, I mean, I assume that we're going to do this by starting at 25. We're just going to unveil one by one. And then we'll just get to the top and we'll see where it is. Or do you want to start at 1? Because I feel like, I don't know,
25 upwards is cool, because I think like top 5 should be like pretty similar, I'd imagine. It's like, it's some placements up and down, and we'll have like our arguments for it, but it's like from down up, I think it's cool. But to add, I followed a similar general approach where mine is less of a prediction of my expectation. It's like, it's like, like as you mentioned, it's like the T1 players, like for example Kyria, mechanically super good, and that alone puts potential on your shoulders. But then there's like the context of performance, which I think is just a lot more tangible, and it's my focus was exactly the same.
No, I'm the same way, because I think that there's a lot of players like Chovy obviously now has a history of like playing worse internationally, but I think it's just too hard to be like, oh, well, Chovy's like the 7th best player because he chokes internationally, like expecting a choke, or like putting Bin higher on the list because he normally pops off internationally. I tried to eliminate that because I feel like there's not much value in trying to predict how players will perform as opposed to just giving the analysis of how they actually performed. Oh, one more thing that I did differently than you. So I think, so when I do my list and I unveil it, you're going to see that I'm pretty low on jungles and supports. Like, I don't think that there's many top junglers and supports. I think the best players in the world are in other roles at this world. But I did 5 from each position. So I have essentially my like top 5 in each position, and then I just combined that into a top 25 list. So I don't have, like, for example, 8 mid laners on this list. I probably would have if I did it a different way, because I think mid is probably the most stacked role at this tournament. I did it more as like giving 5 spots to each role.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, mine is a little bit more skewed in the mid lane direction. As you mentioned, I like mid lane pool is super good, but I also like at some point I struggled. I was like, I'm sitting here doing my like bottom 10, and I'm sitting like comparing a top laner to a support, and I'm like battling that. So I get wholeheartedly the approach of just like sticking to the top 5 in each position. I think that makes like perfect sense, because the evaluation like cross position becomes like murkier and murkier the lower you go, right? For sure.
I think there's that. Oh, and then the last thing I wanted to mention is that I didn't value intangibles that we can't actually measure. So like Faker obviously had a huge impact on T1. When he came back, like the team is way better, but like he wasn't playing that well individually. So he's a player where like if I was going to like try to predict like, oh, well, if you want to judge value to a team from the outside, like you can see that he obviously had an impact, but I didn't actually weigh that into everything, because not every player had that opportunity. Like if Faker goes out and the team plays worse, then you can see his impact, but you don't know the intangibles of the other players. Like what happens if JDG didn't play with Kanavi and their whole team fell apart? Maybe he's actually the one that's like the mastermind behind it. I feel like that's very hard to judge when you're going through a 1 through 25. So I didn't do intangibles at all.
Agreed. I wanted to make the exact same argument that like basically if we pull out a different player from some of the other top end teams, we don't know the effect of it. And Faker has history behind him, but I basically evaluated for his gameplay, like nothing else. It's like he's put in. It's like I sympathize with the idea that he fucking came off of fucking the surgery of his hand and all of that shit, but when it comes to gameplay, like there is no story behind it. It's just gameplay, and that's what we evaluate everything by. The same when it's like people say, yeah, Eva is such a nice guy. It's like, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I liked him, the story, but it's like, we're just talking about gameplay. It's nothing fucking personal in the end, It's like that's what we're doing. We evaluate players.
Damn, bro, I haven't streamed in a bit, and I saw my first ASCII dick just right in my chat, bro. We're fucking back. We're so fucking back. I'm ready.
Do we reveal the first?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. You just write in yours. I write in my column.
All right.
My first is Gumayushi.
All right. I have Wei.
Okay. I in my mind, Gumayushi, it's like if I look at T1 and the reason they made it all the way to second place, even though like a lot of it was wonky, I think most of it was of the work of Gumuyushi and Zeus. And Zeus is another player from T1 that I have in the list. Is my last T1 player on the list. I think that even though Gumuyushi and Zeus occasionally had like some poor games that stand out, I can imagine in a circumstance where the team is largely dysfunctional, besides in the context of like strong laning and also strong team fighting and having, you know, just good individual mechanics. I think in terms of how this team connects and plays together with support and jungle is completely dysfunctional. I think in a lot of those series, especially the series against KT, I think Gumuyushi really stood up there. I think that Zeus was also one of them. I think Gumuyushi and Zeus are like the two players that really execute at an insane level when it comes to T1 actually winning games, because somehow they made it to second place in the region.
Yeah, for Gumuyushi, I thought he was playing better when Faker was out of the lineup, and then when Faker came back, I thought the players that were like stepping up were Keria and Zeus. Those are the players that I like were valuing more. So Gumuyushi is a player that I've always like, he just in terms of how I evaluate AD carries, I just don't like AD carries like Guma. So my last AD carry, we can go to 24 now. My last AD carry on the list is Deft. And the reason why I value Deft over Gumuyushi is I just think that Deft is significantly more consistent, and he falls flat because his team doesn't set up fights well. They don't play a good mid game. They don't play a good late game. So he's not able to use a lot of his leads, but I think that he's more consistent. And I think that that's a bigger benefit than somebody like Gumuyushi who can just solo lose you an entire game.
Yep. I think it's a question of flavors, right? Because I think Deft, someone mentioned in my chat some time ago, like that you mentioned that Deft is just a better version of Ghost. I think that like he performs at a solid, like let's say 85%, 90% all the time. He's not going to dip from there. While Gumuyushi is a player that has like wider ranges, but his top end has been, in my mind, very important for T1. Even though it's like he has had glaring games where it's like, what the fuck is he doing here? You know, in the low end ranges, you know.
Yeah, I think Deft kind of struggles from the same things that Ruler was struggling with when he was in LCK, where I don't think that Deft's team sets him up well for team fights. And when you're playing AD carry in a game that's really dysfunctional, you don't have vision in correct places, it can become extremely hard to play. So I'm a little bit more lax when I see a consistent AD carry not hard carry some of these games when his team sucks. It's kind of the same way for Viper. I think a lot of people see Viper and they're like, oh, well, he does make some mistakes, but it's like, it's so much easier to make a mistake when you're playing late game with no fucking vision, people aren't in the right spot, and you're like behind, your front line's dying instantly. It's so easy to make mistakes. And I think that Deft, if his team had better setups, would be like a fucking monster with how, you know, he's laning and just the advantages that he gets within games. I just think that he's not the guy that's going to, you know, pull the rabbit out of the hat and make magic happen in a team fight. He's somebody who wants structure, and the structure just doesn't exist for him.
Agreed. I think even in the context of like DRX's run last year at Worlds, I feel like Deft was a player that was underappreciated because Beryl barely laned. Like we just saw the camera of him like fucking going top, and somehow Deft remained relevant. And I think that a different AD together with Beryl would like not find ways to be like impactful in the game. And,
like he was completely capable of winning lane. I mean, the reason why he was losing lanes so often, or he was down in CS so often, was because he was laning with Beryl. Beryl's playing Bard, bro. Like, how are you going to win a lane when you have a Bard in your lane? Like, it doesn't fucking make
how
sense.
many times do we see Beryl like playing Heimerdinger, throwing rockets like level 2 at some guy in mid and just like diving the guy and and going completely mental. But I put way 24. I like in my mind, similar to the idea of T1, I'm trying to like evaluate like why some of these teams actually made it. In my mind, I think Weibo, I think Weiwei, just the fact that he can play so many different champions, mechanically super good. It was very hard to point out like things that he does wrong. And the main thing for me is like the volume there and the competition that is above him. They just have like a larger volume of like really strong games. And then I think Weiwei and Jahu to me were the two big reasons why Weibo actually managed to qualify against fucking tough opposition. I give Weiwei a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I'm happy you have Weiwei on the list because I think he's underappreciated. I mean, when you saw Weibo play with Karsa, and then they made the change to Weiwei. You saw how much work that he's doing with the team. Like, he stabilizes so many lanes. His job is so fucking hard. Like, imagine playing jungle for the Shy. Like, I would not be able to do it, bro. I would end my life in game if I had to do that shit. And Weiwei, just, he can bail him out when he needs to. He's always in the right place at the right time. Like, this guy is fucking good. So he definitely belongs on the list.
No, for sure. My next one is Mickey X. I have Mickey X 23. I think we already mentioned it, right? It's like the strongest Western player. I think that he is the most complete support out of Europe by far. I think that he can play many different styles. I think that the biggest letdown for him during MSI was like that the Han Sama meta didn't really align for him, because like the Aphelios and the Jinxes is not where I imagine him being the strongest. I think Mickey is a player that can actually like compete lane wise and hit all of the right beats in the game. And G2's reason for losing will never be Mickey. I think Mickey will always be in like tune and in what's going to happen. And I think Mickey will be able to compete besides maybe against the top end, which are like the supports that I have above him, which are like the mega squeezers of what you get out of support.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was innovating too, which is really important. The fact that he was able to bring out like Lissandra into Rakan, I think that that's something that could be really valuable at Worlds. And I think that his champion pool complements what Hansama does so well. Like, Hansama wants to be playing things like Kalista, and Mickey X is able to find a bunch of different champions to pair with that Kalista or his Draven to just make sure that Hans is, you know, covered at all points. And I think Hans is like the type of player, I'm a little bit scared for Hans internationally. I feel like he's like a little bit worse under pressure. I think about MSI. I think about some of like the finals that we saw in LEC recently, and I just think that he plays slightly worse. But I think that Mickey will put him in positions where they can win games, even if he is not playing 100%. So yeah, I think we can go to 22. I think that I'm going to have a different take here because I have Keria over Mickey X.
Oh, okay. I slotted in on right here because you can go on Keria and I'll talk about one.
So Keria was really hard for me to rank because I think his top end is like world class. Like, when you saw some of those Alistar games in playoffs and he's playing really well, I feel like he's like, yeah, he's in competition to be the best. It's very hard for me to place him because his summer, like the majority of summer, is so dog shit. And this is where I guess a little bit of my bias creeps in. The fact that I know that he's an emotional player made me kind of be like, oh, that wasn't really T1. You know, when T1 didn't have Faker, it wasn't like, he seems like he's the type of guy that would get really tilted by that whole predicament, or if his mid laner is not doing the appropriate things at the right times, maybe he plays a little bit worse as a result. But I thought that he was really good towards the end. And yeah, that's why I have him over Mickey. Also, like, just in general, LCK obviously is a much harder region than LEC. So I think he gets a little bit of a pass of not performing as well as Mickey. I think that Mickey can be more consistent because he plays against weaker competition.
I think in my mind, I feel like Keria mechanically, like always when it comes to players that play at a very, very high mechanical level, I think that it's easier for me to imagine them like figuring out everything else. You know, it's like when someone doesn't perform mechanically for a long time, you just know that they have reached like a bar and they're not going to break through it. On my end, Keria mechanically super, super insane. But in my mind, it's like T1's lack of identity coming into, like, for example, the finals where it was like put on Lulu over and over again because they just struggled with the idea of how they connect together with jungle and support, which I think is such an essential part of the game. I think in a world where like T1 was so strong in spring in my mind because everything was about laning, squeezing, pressuring turret, really like bot diving. It was all about just making sure that you squeeze as hard as possible out of your lane matchup and you can really leverage your mechanical skill. But I think as everything progressed into the melee supports and being at the right place at the right time and really, really leveraging like Fog of War and really pressuring together with your jungle, I feel like that's where T1 always struggled. And I value Owner super, super low on, like, I don't have him on my list at all. Yeah, but I also put some of that on the hands of Keria. I think when Keria comes to mechanical play, if he's playing the range support and he's isolated in lane, if he's playing trash lanes, I feel like he's insanely dangerous. But just due to his summer, I haven't put him on the list. And it's something that I know that I might regret because I know that coming into the World Championship, if he's playing the right champions, he can really, really be like insane, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to when we do the combined score, like evaluate Carry a little bit, like maybe even take him off the list, because I think that the fact that I know that he's so good definitely biases me towards putting him on a top 25 list, because it's like when I think about making a top 25 list, like I just know that Carry is a top 25 player in the world at the end of the day. So I guess it's very hard for me to remove that and only look at Summer, because I mean, I watched all the T1 games because they lost every game and I only watch when they lose. And he was definitely not playing great in a lot of them. But yeah, I mean, we can discuss it more in depth when we actually go to the combined ranking.
Yep. On is my boy here. 22nd. It's like I love On as a player. Just as a preface, it's like I have most of my supports on the lower end of my list. So it might look low, but in the context of everything else, I think this is like a decent scoring. I think on On and Missing is like Mickey and Hilly in Europe, you know. But On has insanely high range in terms of what kind of impact he has. I remember specifically, it's like his Rakan play, how he pushes forward and like gains so much information. It's like works together with Alex super well. I think in terms of like high end range gameplay, On is like the strongest. But in terms of like dipping down and sometimes dropping the ball, that's like the risk that comes with it. This is like when I put On here, I can imagine that this is something that I might regret coming later down the line. Maybe this is a player like coming into a world championship. I think that On can definitely walk away maybe being the best performing support at the tournament. So I can imagine
I have On
myself
higher on my list. I have him like a little bit higher.
I can imagine myself like regretting this one, you know. I just think in top end ranges, he's so insane.
The thing I value about On, the reason why I have him higher later on, is I think that not only does he play things like the Lulu extremely well, I thought he was probably the best Lulu when it came to MSI. I mean, he was just stomping Carrier to the fucking ground like in that BO5. But he also has the other range where like he has the Rakan, he has the Blitzcrank. He can play everything, and I just think that he creates so much for BLG. So many times he's the guy that's finding the engage, that's just winning the entire game. So I value him really high. I mean, I think On is a fucking beast.
Yeah, I'm looking at this now, and I'm already like, a part of me thinks that this looks wrong, because I haven't checked on my list since 4 days back. But I'll just continue with it. I put it then. I'll trust my past self.
Yeah. Yeah, we can compromise when we get to the end. So 21, I've got Shun.
I got Showmaker here.
Ooh, I like that personally.
I think Showmaker has had a pretty dirty year, but I just, for me, his run in the lower, like just to qualify to the World Championship, that brought back some of my love for the guy, and I think maybe I have a soft spot for Showmaker and Canyon, because they're like some of the favorite players of all time. So I just think that his run in the lower bracket coming into this tournament, I can imagine it's like that Showmaker can continue with this form. I also value mid laners pretty damn high. That's also a part of the stake.
So Showmaker for me, in Gauntlet, he was like insane. Like when I was watching Gauntlet, I was like, this guy, he's fucking so back. But it just wasn't enough to counter the rest of like summer for me, or the rest of the year, or even how he performed in playoffs. I just felt like he's one of the main reasons why I feel like Damwon's macro is not good. I feel like he does weird things mid to late game that he used to not do, and I don't know if that's because he used to play with Beryl and there was more structure within the team. But for me, like if he played just like that regional Gauntlet a little bit longer out, he would have easily made my list, because I want to put him here. It's like I said earlier, I think Showmaker and Canyon are better players than Deft. But I just think that Deft performed better over the course of the year, so that's why I have Deft and I don't have Canyon and Showmaker.
100% fair. Yeah, I that's like my heart. It's like two things: the Gauntlet, being a mid laner. I appreciate these things, and I agree that the majority of the year Showmaker was not on at all, and Deft was the better performer. It's just a question of rules for me that what made me go ahead with Showmaker in the list as my Damwon player.
Okay. Yeah.
Talk about Shun, brother.
I really like Shun.
Same.
He's a player that to me gives BLG that like aggressiveness. Also, I think that he combos really well with Yagao. And I just think that the level that he's played at for the majority of the year has been relatively insane. He also picks up champions really well. It feels like he can play anything. If we end up in carry jungle meta, I'm confident he'll have no problem being one of the best. There's always the threat of Kindred. There's always the threat of Nidalee. And all that stuff I think is something that I credit him for, even if he's not playing those champs all the time. I just value him really highly in terms of BLG, and I think BLG is like one of the top 4 teams of the tournament. So I wanted to put him on the list.
100%. I have him on the list, like a couple of points over. I think, in my mind, I think that the Bilibili players in the community, they've been quite disrespected in my mind. I think that, I think they didn't manage the, there was this meta shift from 13, 12, 13 into 14. I don't remember the exact patch numbers, but it was the shift away from the Aphelios and the Jinx with the Gale Force being out, and then the shift away from Wukong and the Vice. And I think that's where Shun was doing super, super well. And I think as a team, Bilibili didn't manage that meta shift super, super well coming into the BO5s. And I think this is something that they can manage with time. And I think Shun coming into this World Championship will be an actual, he will be a weapon, considering that the meta seems a lot more wider and more open than it was in the Maokai, Rel, Sejuani, kind of Ivan period of all things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Wei, for example, could play the Ivern, and it didn't really feel like it was Shun's thing, and that kind of played into how he was performing. He just wasn't able to play all the champions. But for me, BLG, the fact that they didn't hit one of the metas, I think is fine, considering the fact that they were hitting all the other metas throughout the entire year. When you think about MSI, when Kha'Zix came in, people didn't know how to value Kha'Zix. They didn't know if Kha'Zix was actually a legit jungler, if it's just kind of some solo queue bullshit, what to build on it. And he was playing it in really high prio games. The fact that he was able to just have a read on the meta, he was always there diving bot. One of the main reasons why T1 lost that series to BLG was the fact that BLG was so focused on drafting a lane that's able to get prio, diving it when they're not able to counter it, and then just snowballing the game from there. So yeah, I mean, I could see putting Shun higher. It was hard because I felt like he had some really bad games at the end, and obviously in playoffs you have to weigh that more than you would weigh the regular season. So, and the fact that I didn't consider Spring or MSI at all in my list, I think that was a huge part of it, because if I'm considering Spring and MSI, I mean, this guy could be top 10.
Yeah, I think on my end, I let myself do that because it was hard not to do it, I had to fight myself, so I just let myself think of it like that. But I'm not that much higher. It's I have him on 18th as a little spoiler.
We go 20.
All right, I have Elk here.
Ooh, I have Elk higher.
Okay,
I got Zeus.
I think Elk, really, really fucking strong player. I think that he can compete with the best. They have the Bilibili anomalies against JDG, and I think those are rough. I think that in the context of the Aphelios and the Jinxes, he was so fucking sharp, and the Lucian Nami, he was the ultimate squeezer, everything that I like in an AD carry. But I think that he dropped lower in the shipped up to the Kaisers and the Zeris and the Zaya direction. I think that's where he dropped a little bit lower. But I'm not concerned about him. It's the ADs that are above him are ADs that manage to stay relatively consistent. But I think in the context of that particular meta where Elk was the strongest, I think that he was up there and competing better than some of the other ADs I have above him. It's just that in that conversion, I think he struggled. But I think Elk is really, really insane. It's his Lucianami play, Aphelios play, the way he fucking squeezes. I think that there was not a lot of players that were on par with him at all.
Yep. No, I agree with that. I have him higher because I think he's so insane. He's one of the 80 carries when he's playing on top form, his movement, the way he spaces is next level. You see this guy with Lethal Temple fully stacked or a Jinx reset, and it looks like he's just clicking faster than other 80 carries. The way he's able to space everything, I don't know, it's so impressive to me. So I've been a fan of this guy for a while. I loved him when he was playing Vayne, when he was Jumeng, and just seeing him hit the form that he hit made me have a lot of confidence in him. So I have him higher on my list. In terms of Zeus, it was really hard for me to play Zeus because I thought that he was the best top laner in LCK by the end of summer. Like in summer playoffs, I thought he was just smurfing. Outside of, I guess, the last series versus Genji, he wasn't like amazing in that series. But that's just Zeus versus Doran in finals. Like, what can you do? I thought he got to really good form, but then he played so fucking bad some games that it was hard for me to put him higher than this. Because, like, if you take into account summer, just think about, like, the Cassante dive on the fucking Alistar. Like, just all this random shit he was doing. He was really fucking running it. So, I think he's good. I mean, I know he's good. He should be one of the top laners in the world. Like, the conversation should be, like, 369, Bin, Zeus. That should be the top 3 top laners in the world. But I think he just had too dog shit of a summer for me to put him any higher than this.
Okay. Yeah, but my evaluation of Zeus is very similar to how I evaluated Gumayushi. It's like I have sympathy for players that play in dysfunctional teams and walk into series. Maybe it's just in my imagination, right? But I can see the mentality of a player that feels like he needs to do more than what is the standard. And I think in that, there's definitely moments where there's straight up int moments from Zeus 100%, but I think there's also moments where I feel like, yeah, he feels the need to do more than he should. I think especially those games against fucking Doran, it seems like the mentality is completely fucking off, you know, and his ankles got kind of fucking broken. But for me, it was like, how did Zeus and like how did T1 get into the second seed coming out of course, Korea? And I put that stock on Zeus, even though there was some games that were dropped over the back of Zeus and Gumayushi.
Yeah.
19?
19.
19. I have Zika here.
Ooh. Zika's my boy. I have him really high up.
I think Zika is super interesting, man.
I think he's really good. I was debating. I mean, this is a little spoil. I almost put him over Bin. I think that there's an argument if you look at like summer and then you look at the series that they played. I think there's an argument that Zika is better than Bin because of the fact that he can play all the tanks, whereas Bin like was playing tanks at the beginning and kind of dropped them towards the end and went back to being himself. But I ended up giving it to Bin at the end of the day, but it was close. I almost did it. Like I really value that guy super highly, so I don't have him. I have Keen here, and this was hard compared to Zeus because for me, like Zeus just looked like he was better in playoffs, which obviously matters more than regular season. But Keen was like borderline MVP of the entire league in regular season. Like his regular season was so fucking insane in LCK that I just gave it I was like, okay, he was better for like 9 weeks and Zeus was better for 3. Keen gets 1 spot above. That was kind of how I saw it.
Yeah, I see that. No, it's weird because when I evaluated Keen, I can admit that a lot of my biases came through because I feel like this is a player that has always been so fucking good in regular season. And then it's like somehow when they're approaching the end of the season matches, I feel like I always end up getting disappointed. And when I evaluated that through that lens and I saw those BO5s, I just evaluated them higher because it's like if I view KT like that too, then all of a sudden it's like I would view Lehen's different, but the Lehen's is easier to categorize, I feel. I think BDD was an absolute monster. I have BDD coming later on the list for me. I think, those BO5s really, really mattered to me against Zeus.
Yeah, the BO5s weren't great. I think that there was like a failure in a meta read there. Some of the games, like,
yeah, for sure. Oh my lord!
Was the Rumble Renekton game? Was that was the first time they played KT versus T1? When was that? When was that Rumble versus Renekton game when he had like 20 CS?
I was gonna put it up on second screen because I remember that was fucking atrocious. It's like they second series as well. They like ignored Chistana for some reason. It was a complete mess.
Yeah, it's tough. But then at the same time, like that game, I remember it being on his jungler as well. The fact that he was in that situation, so I gave him a little bit of a pass here. I was just the BO5s mattered to me as well. Like, or this guy could have potentially even been like top 10 or something with how he played in summer. But this is where I put Keen. I gave it a little bit to him over Zeus, and yeah, I'm ready to go to 18 if you are.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just not pull up the games. Who cares? Let's go to 18.
Okay.
18. This is where my Shun comes in. Shun.
Ooh.
And Big Dick Daddy.
I got Big Dig Daddy, number 18. All right, tell me about Shun. Tell me why you had him higher on this list. I assume it's just you're more into the reasons that I said, and the fact that you evaluated Spring and MSI bumps him up.
I think, like, even in the summer run, right? I think that I think how Billy functions, I give a lot of credit to Yagao because this guy doesn't get enough credit because he's the supplier, you know. He's the guy who always shows up. He comes in good conditions. He's always there for you. Plays what is necessary and figures out a way for you to be the kid in the playground that gets to have fun. You know, Yagao is a fucking mountain. And then he plays crazy LB. I shouldn't talk more about Yagao, but nevertheless, Shun, I think that he dropped off for me in the switch up of the meta. This is already what I mentioned, right? I think that Wukong was like so important for him. It's like when Shun was on Wukong, I was like, yeah, this game, he will get to that point and he will find ways to squeeze, and then eventually he's going to just carry the game. Like Billy was so fucking dangerous in summer, and I think Shun was a big part of that. I think Shun and On, like they have that same level of instinct and craziness that I really enjoy watching. I think this is like gameplay at a very, very high level. I think that he's super, super sharp. And I think that just in the context of playing like all of those fucking tank junglers, I think this is where he struggled. And beyond that, I am excited to see what he's coming into, like what he's bringing to the World Championship. I think that his body of work just super, super impressive.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, I like Shun a lot. I have BDD here. I think he was probably the core, I would say, of KT throughout, I mean, the whole year, even though I didn't evaluate Spring in my list. I thought that he really played some fucking quality Tristana games that just made me feel like he was a beast. Oh shit, you have him 17.
Yep.
So you're right there. Okay, well, I mean, I guess we're gonna talk about him again here, but yeah, I mean, he was the core of the team. I really liked his Azir, his Tristana. It just feels like he's a player that will be the most consistent on that team, and he's really a rock. And I think that pairs really well when your jungler is not the best. I think that without BDD, they're gonna have a huge gap mid jungle in most games.
Agreed. I think BDD was crazy good. I think his summer play. I think there was this whole debacle about the whole KT 5-man in All Pro, right?
Yeah.
It's like in my mind, I thought Peanut performed better than Cuz, and then like
Definitely.
in the end, I wanted to put Chovy over BDD, but there was a very, very strong argument for BDD being rightfully there because he was insane. I think also in the series against T1, I think that the series that they dropped, I feel like Lehens and like I felt like his teammates really let him down because he almost like carried that fucking series.
Yeah, he almost carried it. I mean, if you watch some of the fights that he was playing, like he was playing some fights actually perfectly, where it was like you don't even see the fucking angle, and he's getting so much done, like perfectly timed fucking rocket jumps, or he's like buster shotting while he's getting engaged on and jumping into the pit. Like there was some Herald fights that were absolutely insane. I think that guy is really insane. I think he just had a complete comeback year, bro. He's comeback player of the year for sure in LCK.
It's crazy. Like this year has been completely nuts because he was always. It's like even looking back at Spring, he was always in tune with the meta super, super well. Like in the past, I always saw him as this player that played like 2-3 champs and stuck to them and didn't really pivot away from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like that he just comes in with like a repertoire of weapons. He can play anything and I don't feel like I can put him in any box anymore, you know? Just a fucking very strong all-around player.
Yeah, you think about him throughout the year, and there's like always the Azir games, but then also he had the Tristana. When Tristana became the meta, he became one of the best Tristanas in LCK. Like he was playing Annie. He was one of the people that picked it up in Spring when it was good. He could play Yone. He
like
always
that
has
Veigar
the pocket
period
TF.
too, right?
Yeah, the
TF
Veigar
as well, yeah, for sure.
There's just so many things he can play, and I think that he's the guy where if you give him a counter pick now, you don't have to early pick his mid. If you give him a counter pick, he'll actually make use of it. So, yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. I
Give
mean,
me your 17th.
Yeah, my 17th is Elk.
Okay.
I think that he did get hit by the meta a bit, and that's something that I kind of gave most BLG players a pass on, like we discussed earlier. I think that BLG in general hit enough metas that, you know, they'll be good. And I think that there just became a lack of synergy between him and On that was just a very unlucky timing. And then also I think that they just took the JDG, like losing to JDG for the fucking 80th time in a row in that best of 5. I kind of think it broke them for the final one that they played against LNG. So I didn't hold that against them too much. I mean, maybe I'm letting Spring creep into it more when I think about this. Like, I'd be willing to negotiate him down later, but to me, he's just one of the better players that we've seen this year, and that's why I have him at this point.
No, makes sense. Makes sense. I think I don't see what you're writing. Do you press enter when you're like done?
Yeah, you don't see it.
Okay, maybe if you move like you're marking, because for me it's just a gray square when you write. That's why I didn't see your elk.
Oh, you see it now?
What you wrote on 16?
No. 17. You see it now?
17 I see now, yeah. I think when you move away, cool. I see it. So yeah, I put Zeus here.
Fair.
And it's like,
list again, okay.
I think on my end, still same arguments as before. I evaluated how did T1 end up here in the position that they're in. I think Zeus and Gumiushi had like really, really strong high-end performances in key matches. Even though that they dropped lower, I felt like all the way up into the Gen G series, I feel like Zeus and Gumiushi like kept them intact. Even though that they bled along the way, I think they also offered so much. And I think Zeus as a player, mechanically super solid. I think that he has a super wide range of play. Maybe not on the tank end, but I think this is more of a stylistic thing of T1 because they are not the team that really has that identity that connects together. And I sympathize with T1 playing with such a dysfunctional mid jungle. So I sympathize with the players because I feel like Zeus, in a lot of cases, needs to create advantages and good wave states through himself.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I have Zeus lower is just simply because I just think that he wasn't playing well enough for a long enough period of time. It felt like he was just nothing for that whole period where Faker was out. He was one of the worst players on the team. He somehow couldn't lane. He was just making really weird decisions. And then he came back. Faker came back. Then he's good again until finals. And then finals, he kind of falls off. It was just hard for me to put him any higher than 20th. I have Pays here. I don't know if I'm underrating Pays because he did play well, but there's something missing, I think, at points where I don't see him like take over when I want him to a lot of the time. So Pays is a player that I think is really good. I'm not sure how he'll perform at this World Championship because he is new, and I did think that during MSI he played a little bit worse than he did domestically. Like domestically, I would have said he was the best AD carry. In spring, it just felt like he was on top form. Didn't feel the same way in MSI. Summer, he comes back. I think he probably should have been above aiming. I think he's like, he was a player that was borderline MVP. And part of the reason why, just as an aside, part of the reason why I hated this LCK All-Pro fiasco, same way I always hate it, is because it feels like if Gen G just beat KT in that final best of 5, then Pays is MVP and the whole team is just first team All-Pro. Or not best of 5, the best of 3.
Yeah.
Their final meeting where they were both like, 16-1 or 15-1, whatever the fuck it was. I feel like that just determined the whole thing. So I have Pays there, but I actually have Delight higher.
Okay.
I think Delight is really fucking good.
My next one is actually Delight.
Same.
And then, funnily enough, my next one is Pays.
Okay, why not?
I think on the Pays end, I think that his identity as an AD carry really fits the idea that I have of Gen G. I think that Gen G is a team that has gradually it's like I like to view teams in a way where they play in ranges, right? It's like some teams are very solid and disciplined, and they're going to stick within a very certain range all the time, and the odds of someone like upsetting them is like almost minimal. It's like Gen G is a team that I imagine this is a team that is in insanely like solid. Teams that are ranked below them on most tier lists are going to like lose against them in my mind, right? And I think that when I evaluate someone like let's say, Billy. This is a team that has players that can play in very wide ranges, and they can play games where they even are capable of destroying like the best of the best when things connect just right, because they are pursuing really, really niche opportunities in the game. It's like they're willing to like fake contest to Drake just to see if someone's going to make a mistake, and they're going to look to squeeze, while Genji as a whole, and I think also Pace as a player, is a player that like consistently performs at like a solid, let's say 90%, while Elk, I would say that he's more like a 80 to a 95, where he has like really, really higher end ranges. I feel like Pace brings a consistency at a very high level, and I appreciate that in an AD carry. I think that he's very, very solid, disciplined. I think that he managed the conversion in the AD carry, like change up in the bot meta pretty decently. I think Pace is a very, very strong player.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about Delight.
Delight. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we both have him on 15.
Delight, what a fucking glow up. What
yeah,
a
he
fucking...
had an insane glow up. He had an insane glow up. The thing that I like about the thing I like about Delight is his range supports. I thought his Alistar was really good. I mean, he had some like sick plays, you know, like WQ flash prediction, like you know the one I'm talking about, the one top lane. Like he had some ones that were like absolutely fucking crazy. I liked his Alistar. I think his Lulu was like just the best at LCK, and I think that he puts Paze in a good position to carry a lot of games. I think they're interchangeable. I mean, I could have put Paze 15 to Light 16. But I think they're very close in skill, and I just appreciate what Light brings to the team. His patience, I think, is unique. When you watch him play Rakan, he's not one of the Rakans that needs to go first. He's the guy that will like wait for the specific moments and get the most out of the kit. And I just think that he sees the game really well as a support. He can see a whole fight playing out, and he has such a good mind for what abilities need to be used on every single like one of his teammates or to engage. And I think that that's what makes him special, is just he's seeing the game really clearly right now.
Agreed. I think team fighting, beautiful. I think it's weird. I think in a pool of supports coming out of Korea, he's by far the most complete, because it's like Korea, there's arguments against him. Lehens, it's like Lehens is like a mad fucking scientist, and
he's hilly,
but he's hilly pretty much. Yeah, it's like how many games did Lehens like just lose Flash level 1 for some pointless reason, and he picks Singe in some strange spots, and
the Singe game that he played was fucking so horrible. What did he play it into? I just remember was he playing Singed into Lulu? What was it?
It might have been like Lulu. I don't remember specifically, but I remember it was bad. That's what that
whole game was bad. That was the Xerath game from BDD, right? Jesus.
It's like the Light on my end is just the complete package. It's hard to knock him for anything. I think that he just brings value in every single game. I think that there is no like glaring weakness, and I really, really appreciate it in a player, especially when your high-end performances are really damn good. It's like his finals was absolutely mental what he did. Like his Blitzcrank game, his Rakan game. It's like it's crazy how well he played on the higher end, and it's just been like a steady progression throughout the year without really losing anything of himself in that pursuit of better play.
I echo everything you just said. Go next.
Let's go next.
Who do you have here? I wonder if we're similar here.
Oh, you did you talk about On?
Oh no, I didn't talk about On. Let's talk about On. So the reason why I have On over Delight is I just think that On is the guy that has a higher upside than Delight. I think Delight is more consistent, but I think that On has been consistent enough that his upside carries him over. Just like when I think about On, I think about the Blitzcrank, the Lulu. Like when On plays a game, he can play like a perfect game from lane phase on. His reactions are on point. Where I feel like Delight kind of wants to be more prepped. I mean, Genji as a whole, it feels like they just need a stable game. They need to go into a situation, know what the fuck is going to happen before it happens, and then execute based on the framework they've already established. Whereas On, for me, like he's just got that fucking instinct where he's like, oh, they're instinct, I'm gonna win the whole fucking game right here. And we've seen that throughout the year. So obviously Billy players are going to be high on my ranking, because I think that they are actually just a like top 3 team at this tournament going into it. Even if, you know, they ended up 3rd in LPL, this guy is just crazy good. So I have him there. I put my 13 already.
My
see it?
13, I see it. My 13 is missing. So I put missing here.
Okay.
And
All
this
right.
is the last support. I think missing is the best support. I think I feel like he basically what I said about the light. I feel like missing is just has a larger body of work and has shown that for a longer period of time and has higher ranges pretty much. I think like missing is brings very low variance. I think plays everything super well, and I think it's like it's weird. Like the argument is always like, "He plays with rulers." Like, yeah, well, what do you want me to do? Like, he plays according to having rulers, so that's perfect. It's like, what the fuck else do you want him to do? You know? And I
Yeah.
think that mechanically, super good range of champs. I think that. It's like I think people underestimate it's like some of these lane phases that ruler and missing can get through. It's like when they were picking Jinx Rakan lane, it's like there's no other bot lanes that are gonna get away with this because both of them are laning so damn well. And I think missing is an important part of that.
Yeah, I think missing for me, I have him higher on my list. The main thing about missing is that he plays so well in accordance to what ruler does. So for some reason, so we've seen this before. Just to preface, we've seen a lot of Chinese supports play with these like high tier import Korean ADs that are supposed to be gods. And it's very rare that you see the synergy immediately the same way that you saw with JDG's bot lane. And I think that Missing just, he views Ruler as such a good player that no matter what Ruler does, Missing will just follow it up. If he needs to fucking die because Ruler made a mistake, he'll do it instantly without even thinking. And I think that that's something that's so fucking scary when you have a guy that's like this willing to just commit to any play that makes sense. And the bot lane pairing is just so fucking good there. So I love Missing. I mean, I think he's the best support on my list as well. I don't have him as high as, you know, like some other people. Like I don't have him, you know, in my top 5 or anything, but I have him a little bit higher because I really value the way that he was able to adapt so well to superstar AD carry. Like think about the pressure you must be under when you get somebody who's considered like a GOAT AD carry. Like you're one of the top 3 AD carries of all time. He goes and plays with that guy and he makes him look even better somehow. So that
Agreed.
guy's a beast.
Agreed. I think always it's like when so-called super teams fail, it's usually because it's like players from past teams, they are so like bolted into their identity and they think this is the way they're going to win games, and then there's like clashes in terms of how you want to do things in the game. It's like JDG functions so damn well because of fucking Missing and 369 willing to be such fucking role players for the team, and Kanavi like really piecing it together, really presenting everything on a plate that the Knight and Ruler like execute so well on. Like no one's gonna go against doing that for these two. It's just it's just a symphony what JDG is. I'm in agreement about Missing. Xiaohu 13.
Xiaohu.
I'm a little bit higher. I love Xiaohu.
I love Xiaohu too. This guy is the reason why Weibo's there. I mean, like
Yes.
Weiwei was able to like bridge things together, but Xiaohu was so fucking insane. And for me, the thing that I value so much about Xiaohu is his ability to read game states and understand like when he needs to make a play to win the whole game. So many mid laners will just go with the flow. For example, BDD I don't think has the same like instinct as Xiaohu, where he'll see a situation and be like, oh, I need to fucking win the game right now. Like, this is where I need to go for like an Azir flash ult or something. Or I need to just like make a play on this AD carry. Xiaohu just has that like game, that like winner. I mean, it sounds like a meme, but the winner mentality. Like he knows when to take the game into his own hands and win it. And that's the reason why Weibo's here. I mean, he's one of the GOATs, man. If like, and this is why it's hard for me to rate a player like Xiaohu, because if he was on a better team, maybe he's like top 5. Maybe he's top 3 if he's on a better team because he's so fucking talented. We've seen him play top lane, mid lane. Like the reason he can play different roles is because he's so fucking good at the game. He just understands the game on such a core level. So yeah, I have him 13. I would be willing when we go to the combined score to negotiate him higher. This guy's a beast.
I think I have Xiaohu higher. I evaluated mid laners pretty high in general coming into this World Championship. It's just like the list of mid laners that are coming into this tournament is absolutely mental. It's like the 4 mid laners coming out of LPL. Absolutely crazy what competition that you had to play against to even get to this point. It's like when I think of like Rookie and like Cream, like how well they fucking played and they didn't make it through, you know. I think Xiaohu went the extra mile. It's like Jahu did what I wish Rookie did, because Rookie is also like a player that I have a sore spot for. You know, he didn't like squeeze in the moments where he needed to squeeze based off of like what his team was giving him. And there were definitely games where it's like you walk away from games and you're like, wow, Jahu just literally fucking 1v9 this game. And I remember thinking this so many times for Weibo.
Yep, agreed.
Let's do 12. Let's do 12. I have my boy Tarzan here.
I have Peanut.
Okay. You want to go first? You go first.
Yeah, Peanut's a hard player for me to rank. I mean, he's a player that objectively played really well. I see flaws in his gameplay all the time because he just doesn't have the best mechanics anymore. He's limited on champions that he can play. I do think the meta is probably going to be okay for him because Vi is like coming back with the buffs to Vi. I think Jarvan should be something that Peanut will be able to play decently. Tank junglers, he'll obviously be fine on. It's hard for me to rate Peanut super high because I know how well Chovy covers him. So I have Tarzan slightly above Peanut because I think Tarzan's just a better player. But Peanut is good. Like he's the one that makes a lot of the decisions that get Gen.G leads, and he operates really well within structure. And that is part of the reason why Gen.G is one of the best teams coming into Worlds. So I have him 12. I could maybe I could go up to like 10 with him, but I just can't put him over some of the other players that I'm about to list soon.
In my mind, I put Peanut higher, and I had concerns about it because I think the meta was ideal for what kind of a player he is. I think
absolutely Maokai, Sejuani,
like Maokai, Sejuani, Rel, these type of champions, like everything. I think that his level of consistency and the timing has always been super sharp. Even the series is like the one that like people remember the most, the one against Damon, right? There was like five. It went to 5 games, but I remember there was that Poppy game where he actually outplayed Canyon, and it's like I think that this series against Pyoshi was complete garbage, and that like left a sort of taste in my mouth at the level that was crazy because he made Pyoshi look like the GOAT in that DRX Gen.G series.
Yeah.
But then I look at it from the point of view of just Summer. I try to let go of that so fucking hard, and I think that just his execution in the context of this meta has been super good. And I think the main question will be, it's like, how heavy-handed will the Belveth gameplay be? And always when I pose that question, it seems like everything is just going back to the same old with the Rel and the Maokai, because they haven't been changed enough for me to really push Peanut away from that, I think. So
okay.
I think another counter argument that I had in my mind when I evaluated Peanut is I think that the jungle pool in LCK has been very bad, especially with Canyon. Weak. Like Canyon underperforming, I think, and all of a sudden it's like you think Owner, Cuz, it's like this is insanely uninteresting.
I think in general coming into the tournament, the jungle pool is probably the weakest we've ever seen. When you consider previous worlds that we've gone into. I mean, I think about season 9 worlds where Tarzan is in competition for being the best player in the entire world. Season 10, Canyon's up there. Even last year, Canyon is probably still up there. Like, you just have a lot of fucking jungle players that have been at the top. But I mean, I can say it right now, I don't have a jungle or support player in my top 8. Like, I just think that jungle is just not really good at this tournament. And I don't know. Well, I guess the funny thing is, if we go based on our own credentials or like our own, decisions that we made about our tier lists, I feel like I should have Peanut probably where you did, and you should have Peanut where I have. Because if we're evaluating MSI, then I think Peanut gets rated a lot lower. I thought his MSI was pretty bad. I mean, Peanut does this weird thing at tournaments where he forgets that he has no hands. Like when he gets to these international tournaments, he just tries to play.
Viego.
Like, what was it last time? Graves, Viego, like Kindred. Then he's starting to play Kha'Zix. It's like, bro, just play your fucking Maokai, Sejuani, Vi every single time that it's up. Like just that's who he should be. And the fact that he doesn't do that, it makes me worried. I mean, it's the whole problem that I have evaluating Gen.G in general. Like they have such a history now. I mean, we've seen 2 international tournaments in a row of them, dropping the ball and just looking completely different than they look domestically. That's the main problem that I have. It's not just that they're playing a little bit worse. It's that they go to an international tournament and they go from giving up every single Drake, playing for like gold advantage in side lane, then coming to third Drake at like 18 minutes, up 2k gold, down 2 Drakes, and then winning the game at that point. They go from that very quickly, somehow, to wanting to contest every Drake versus Chinese teams. It's like these like Chinese players want to fight the Drake. Like that is their strength. Like they all want to be there. And suddenly Chovy's on Annie and Lissandra and all this shit, and he's just trying to flash ult. Is like, is that the best use of this team? So Gen G players are so hard for me to rate. But part of the reason why I'm putting Peanut here is because I'm not evaluating like choke factor. It's the reason why I have Chovy high on my list. I'm not evaluating choke factor at all.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I have Tarzan high on my list, because I think Tarzan has the propensity to choke as well, but we'll see.
Yeah, Tarzan, I think coming into, I always, Tarzan is like the jungle of like keen jungle. I feel like, you know, in my like evaluation of him, it's like I feel like in regular split, always super fucking strong. Then when it came to best of fives, it was like, okay, here they are. We kind of know that they will find a way to lose, and even though they looked fantastic in regular split, it's just not going to be enough. And that story, it's rang true often in my mind. I think Tarzan, I think that he really, really conquered his demons in their playoff run. I think that Tarzan was essential for that. I don't know how much of his own demons it was. It was also like, I think LNG's massive glow up in both the support and top position also elevated this team, of course. I think that Tarzan, just a very good range of champs. I think that he played like the Maokais and the Rels of this world super well, and I can imagine this is a player that is mechanically like tough enough to be able to play anything. So I think like in terms of junglers, I put him like under Kanavi, of course, and I think that he just is a super good, well-rounded player in my mind. And I think that what made LNG so strong for the longest time before like the other players started to perform and Gala came in was just that the mid 2v2 jungle just carried them through so many games. And I think Tarzan and Scout is super fucking deadly together.
Yeah, I think that there's been times where for Tarzan, like I evaluated him highly, or I valued him highly, but there was definitely times when I was watching Tarzan where I felt like he was choking, but his team was able to carry him to a point where he like got through that and he was able to grow into the series. So I remember the first best of 5 they played in this summer playoffs. The first 2 games I thought were awful. I mean, there were some pretty bad games that he played. I think the game 5 in finals, like the Lilia pick, was completely useless. But overall, I mean, it's hard. I have him under Kanavi. I don't know why I have him under Kanavi though, if I based off summer, because I think that Kanavi had a pretty bad actual summer split. So
okay.
Maybe I should actually change it. But yeah, let's go 11 because we'll talk about Tarzan again soon.
Yeah, because now as we're talking, a part of me regrets putting Peanut over Tarzan, because now my concerns have grown higher for what's going to happen at the World Championship. But I'm worried that it's going to be impacted by the intangibles. Okay, I have Xiaohu here. There's my boy Xiaohu.
I respect it. I don't even know if we need to say anything. He's the GOAT. Like,
no, we already said it all, right?
Yeah, missing. I mean, we've already talked. Yeah, let's go 10. Let's go 10.
All right, 10. Here I have Yagao.
I left Yagao off my list.
Oh,
and
damn.
I'm regretting it because I feel like Yagao had such like a bad final 2 series. Like I really didn't like how he played versus JDG, and then when he played against LNG, I just thought he was like not him. I like Yagao. I like how he plays, but it's when I look at like other mid laners, I don't know, like he doesn't have the carry in him. I think in certain metas, it's really scary for him. If we end up in like a Corki Azir meta, I'm a little bit fucking scared for if Xiaohu's actually going to be able to perform. I think if we end up in an engage meta, he's going to be the fucking best. But yeah, your GOAT, I had to leave him off. The last series really fucking got to me.
No,
I just thought he played really poorly.
That's fair. For me, just Yagao, like I have concerns in regards to the meta, similar to I have concerns about like Peanut. It's like if every game is like Oriana and it's a question of like how well do you just squeeze and like farm out, it's like the mid laners above him are going to just out squeeze him. Like the Scout, Chovy, Knight are going to be much better there. But in a world where I appreciate players like Shun and Bin, I have to give credit to Yagao, because these players don't function so well with the mid laner that is not Yagao. And I think Yagao does a super, super good job of just being there.
And he's also just, he's just a winner. He's just a winning player. Like, you just see it in his gameplay. Like, he is completely selfless. He doesn't care about how he looks in a game. He doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's behind. It doesn't matter if he picks a champion that's not optimal for a lane phase, that if it makes sense for the team comp, he's going to do it.
Yep.
I should probably have him over BDD. I should probably just remove BDD at 18 and put Yagao, now that I think about it, because he has those qualities that I think BDD just doesn't have. Like, BDD is, like, I think a better player if we just looked at all the elements of what makes a player good. Lane phase, mechanics, like CSing, whatever. Like, if you look at all those and you evaluated it all and averaged it all out, I think that you'd have BDD would end up with like a higher score, but I would rather have Yagao on my team.
I think what was so cool for me about Yagao's year was that I remember there were games where he picked like LB and he fucking like really carried. He had like some crazy Jace games. I remember like me, you, Gilius, we have like, Yagao, what the fuck, you know? It's like completely mental. Because I think everyone in that moment, I felt like he was breaking out of like this shell, which is not a shameful shell. It was like he became more in this moment, you know? So I know that the last best of fives are really fucking terrible. And maybe it's because like the community sentiment was so bad around Bilibili that I have like been in this constant fight of the last 2 weeks when I've been streaming about fighting for Bilibili, you know? Maybe I'm viewing him a little bit higher, but I just look at like the pool of mid laners he had to compete against and the best of threes that they played. I think Yagao was just such a monster, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the decision for me is I would have had him at 18 because it was just like, do I put BDD or Yagao on the list? Because I only limited it to 5 mid laners, right? So if I went your direction and just didn't care about the roles at all, he would definitely end up in my list. He's definitely one of the top 25 best players at Worlds. I guess it was just hard for me to like look at his final series, which I'm waiting more, and then also I'm taking less games because I'm not taking MSI and Spring, and be like, damn. So like in the biggest moments where his team is supposed to be top 2, they end up 3rd, and he's one of the worst performers. I think that's what kind of killed him on this list for me.
Yep. I think that's fair. Yeah, I can see that end of the coin 100%. And Tarzan, talk to me.
So Tarzan, he was a player that was playing better than Kanavi in finals if you average out the level of all of the games. So if I value Kanavi super highly, I feel like I also have to have Tarzan up there. It's very hard for me because I don't know. I should just have him over Kanavi. I don't know why I just couldn't put him over Kanavi. Like, something in me just said, like come on, bro, it's Kanavi. Like, how can I say that Kanavi's not the best? But I think Tarzan had a lot of like really good games. It seemed like he was just more prepared for finals. It seemed like JDG in general just thought they were going to walk into finals and win probably by default. Maybe because of how easy their semifinals was against BLG. And I think Tarzan showed up, and his play like early on in those games is what gave LNG such an advantage within the series. So the game 5 was tough. Obviously, the Lilia pick, they had an idea there where they're supposed to have winning lanes, and then the Lilia is supposed to be able to full clear the jungle, invade, all that stuff. It got completely broken down by level 1, and then he was just pretty much useless the whole game, so that was tough. But overall, I mean, this guy has been really good. I'm worried about him choking. I've always been worried about him choking. He might as well just be like jungle Chovy to me. When you look at the way that he plays jungle, I think that that's where all junglers just respect him. You're like, oh, he has like a really good mind for making the correct decision at every single point that a decision needs to be made. It's just that like sometimes you watch him play and you're like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, is this even the same guy who plays well? He's somebody who has a huge champion pool. Like the counter pick ability for him is just, he plays everything. He literally plays everything. If Talia comes back into the meta, boom, he'll be like one of the best Talia players. If they give draft resources to Tarzan, even if he fucked up in game 5 with the Lilia, I think he's one of the best junglers in the world at giving draft resources to. The enemy has a certain comp that's susceptible to a champion like Zac or Nidalee or Talia or whatever, Kayn. Like, he can just play everything. And that's what makes him a scary player. Whereas most other junglers, for example, Peanut, who I was comparing him to a lot in my list, Peanut, I don't think has that ability to pick for a team. Like he is just going to draft a strong jungler early and just do his job. That's what he's supposed to do.
Yep. No, I agree wholeheartedly. And already when we were talking about our number 12, I regret my ordering of the junglers in regards to putting Peanut over Tarzan. But more on that later, because I placed him, when I look at it now, a little bit too high. But my next one is Gala.
My next one is Kanavi.
Okay. On my end, I think Gala is the second best AD coming into this tournament. I think that that there's just some players that I admire players that play so well for so damn long, and all they're doing is waiting for everything else to fall into place. Especially coming from like the coaching side. Like when you work with some players that play damn well and they have to wait for other things to be in place, like that, there is a lot of frustration and weight that comes with that. But I feel like Gala always performs so damn well, no matter what fucking chaos is put around him. And I appreciate that quality about him. I think that mechanically, super good. He has like certain champions, he locks them in, and you know that, damn, this guy is gonna have fucking presence coming into this game. And I think that if it wasn't for Ruler, then Gala, I think, would have so much more attention. But Ruler exists, so sucks for Gala. I think Gala is just such a well-rounded player, always disciplined, always solid. I can't think of him making like glaring mistakes, and he finds a way to always squeeze super hard.
Yeah, the thing that's so impressive about Gala is that his team fucks him over as much as possible almost every game, and then he's always still relevant. Like he doesn't make bad decisions when he has very few good decisions to make. Like he'll be in points where it's like, how do you even play this game? And he always ends up being solid. So I value him pretty highly based off that. I mean, we're entering the tier of just the insane players, like the fucking gods of this tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if he has like if he just wins like a world championship. I mean, this guy is like, he's capable of winning international. We've seen him at MSIs before just be the best player, or like one of the best players, best AD in the tournament. And yeah, I mean, meta makes sense for him. So I guess we'll just have to see. I also think that his support is not great. Like I don't have Hong on my list at all. I mean, obviously here we wouldn't have Hong anyway, but I think that Hong is actually really flawed. I know some people appreciate his like aggressiveness, but he just seems like he's a less disciplined version of On at this point in On's career. So Hong is not here for me. On the Kanavi point, I think I might have overrated Kanavi here. I think Kanavi actually had a horrible summer. When I look at summer in general, I think he had a horrible summer. I don't think he had a good playoffs either, to be honest. I don't think he played that well. It's just, that he's the best when the time comes. And Worlds is the time, right? So that's why I have him here, which is kind of unfair because I didn't evaluate players the same way. I should probably have Kanavi lower, but it just felt wrong to leave him out of my top 10.
It's weird to me about Kanavi is it's weird because I think that falls on JDG as a whole. It seems it's like even in the regular split, it's like the record at the end in terms of best of threes was really insane, but they did drop like some shit games, and I think that was often off of the back of like either like Knight playing a little bit sloppy, but more so I think like in a lot of cases Kanavi. And
I mean, it felt like they were limit testing in the jungle, like with Kanavi, right? Like he was playing the Rel jungle like super early. As soon as it's changed, he's like the first one pulling it out. It looked like the team didn't really know how to play with it, so
And the weird thing for me, right? The weird thing for me about Kanavi, the last thing I wanted to add there was just it's weird about JDG because like even though like a lot of these series, like the best of threes, like went to match point. When match point happened, it's like they're like, yeah, I guess we need to win now, and then all is forgotten for me, And I'm worried that this type of I'm worried that this mentality will get to the point where I guess he played shit in game 2 and 3 and 4, and now he's just going to play shit in game 5 too. And that might happen eventually. But until the point that happens, I have to value Kanavi so highly, which is kind of a weird kind of spaghetti way to do it. But that was like my whole evaluation of JDG as well,
I think that Kanavi, I need to see how he plays more in a meta without Wukong, because when I think about him being like a beast, it always felt like he had these champions to fall back on. When I think about Summer, it's like what were his best champion? Like what was his free win champion that you couldn't give him? Like in previous splits, it was Viego, and in previous splits, it was Wukong. Where is he now? Like where is the champion that he just falls back on? I feel like he was doing an all right job, but some games he was just playing terrible, and I don't know. It's one of those things where I just know he's really good, and it feels wrong to leave him out of top 10, but it's kind of unfair for me to have him there when I consider how I evaluated other players.
Yep. No, I feel that. Yeah.
You want to do 7 and 8?
My,
We'll do
my
8 and
eight,
7 and 6.
my 8 was like, as I mentioned, it's like I regret this now, because after talking to you and going through my own thoughts and listening to you speak about Tarzan, it doesn't make sense for me to put. It's like already I want to switch up Peanut and Tarzan in their positioning.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I will leave it as is, and then we just adjust when we're finished.
Let's hear 7.
All right. 7 for me is Bin.
Damn.
Really? It looks cool when they're next to each other like this.
Yeah. I think Zika is so insane. I really fuck with Zika. He somehow became Bin when he was playing carry champs, and then he became 369 when he was playing tanks. I thought he was ridiculously good. Now, the issue here for me is that I can see Zika not playing well at a world championship because he just turned 20. Like, he was 19, he just turned 20, and it's his first international event. Maybe he chokes. Like, who knows? He doesn't seem like the type that would choke because he plays so consistently well in all these situations. But the glow up for this guy, the fact that he was able to just play every fucking style well, was so impressive to me. So I think that this guy is like his trajectory is absolutely nuts. He went from being like okay on IG to being serviceable in spring, and then to summer being like, oh, you're just one of the best top laners in the entire world now. Like, and you can play everything too. Because Bin obviously prefers carries, 369 prefers tanks. Zika is everything somehow. So I don't know. He's the player to watch for me this entire tournament. I think that this is the guy that people that don't watch LPL are going to be the most surprised with at this tournament.
I also, someone the other day asked me, it's like, who's your dark horse player? Like Zika would be like the type of player that could potentially be like a superstar after this tournament. My only argument, which is the only argument I have against Zika, is that I need to see more, and that's why I put him lower. Because I agree with the notion, very well-rounded player, played whatever was fucking necessary and played it really fucking good. It's not like he just locked it in and was whatever. Like he helped he helped LNG become elevated way more than Hung, I'd say. And Zika definitely, like a dark horse player, he could definitely be fucking up there, you know, that walks away from this worlds and back, boom, superstar status. 100%. Bin on my end, it's like Bin. Just, I think. Oh, there you go.
There it is. I mean, we're gonna talk about him, so we might as well just do it together.
Yeah, that's good. Bin for me, just mechanically monstrous in terms of like dominating games and winning games, and the amount of attention he garners from preparation. I think that Bin is what like a player like the Shy used to be, you know, in 2018. You know, it's like, oh, we're walking into a series against Bin. We need to change up our whole fucking strategy, because we need to fucking start removing some of these champions that he just knows how to 1v9 on. And it's like, for most of the people out there that are listening, it's like, oh, I can 1v9 a game in Diamond 1. It's like, bro, it's a completely different world when you're playing against the top end of top end. And having a player managing to carry games through top side, there's no better player to do it than Bin in my mind. And he's just the best carry top in the world for sure.
Yep. Yeah, same thing for me. I mean, I have him one spot higher. And the main reason that I value him so highly is because he just always fucking shows up. He just has that like inner confidence. You look at this guy and you can tell that he's not going to choke. Like, nothing could make this guy choke. He's so fucking precise, and he's so, the way he plays these carry matchups is so impressive, because he just understands the limits to such a ridiculous degree. You'd think that Bin would win by just like fighting the other top laner to the death. But that's not actually how he plays most games. He's so precise at understanding which waves to crash, cheater recalling, being up one item, like making sure that he always has pressure. His CS is fucking crazy. If you watch him play carry tops, normally you'll see carry tops like they're dropping some CS, maybe at 15 minutes or like 130 CS, depending on how hard the lane is. And it feels like Bin is always shoving waves, 100,
Yes.
10 CS a minute, getting his items on time, showing up to the team fights when he needs to, side laning at the appropriate times. He just understands how to get all those resources. And once he has the resources, he's just a fucking monster in fights. So I don't think his downside obviously is that he can't play tanks. He can't play tanks well. He can play a little bit of Cassante now. He's trying Gragas earlier in the split. Didn't fucking work out. Had to drop it. But this guy doesn't need to. There'll always be a carry champion for him to play. There'll always be a Jax or a Fiora or a
Camille,
Gwen angle.
Gwen.
Camille. His Renekton is fucking really good if he needs to blind something, and he's gonna perform.
Yes, sir. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like in terms of like wave management, a really fucking hard player to gank. Like people try to pressure, but in terms of lane management, having good conditions always, wave management coming into team fights as well. It's like when people of old, when they always talked about, like, not people of old, but stories of old, when people talked about how European teams can't play carry top. It's more about the nuance of the details in terms of how waves are managed, in terms of how much pressure he can garner in situations where he doesn't want to fight. And he sets himself up always to find eventually the climax point in the game where he'll be strong enough to carry the game. And I think that's where most teams miss the mark in terms of like converting a carry top laner into like success. Because I don't think it comes down to like only mechanical play. It's all about those small details in terms of how you manage a wave and set up every nuanced situation.
His people have this idea that he just needs to fight, like that he's the best carry top because he just takes a 1v1 and wins. Like he'll only take 1v1s that are winning in situations where the enemy makes a mistake. He understands that going into the game, he needs to be ahead of the pace of the game. He needs to have levels and he needs to get like 2-3 items before crucial points. And when he has them, he uses that lead to be as annoying as possible. He's that motherfucker that's in the fucking backline with Jax, 1v3ing, 1v4ing, his E is up, then he stopwatches E's again, and the whole enemy team can't play. So, that's him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And my 6 is Kanavi. We talked about Kanavi at great lengths, and maybe I'm giving him too much of the benefit of the doubt because I think JDG as a whole, even though they let series go to match point, when that match point happens, it's like not a doubt in my mind. It's there, and everything just kind of connects. And I don't know if it's them playing with their freedom or them having that additional level of pressure just hits right for them. It's just that in those games, I feel like Kanavi delivers, and maybe I'm looking too lightly at some of the shitty games. But Kanavi for me, maybe I'm thinking too much as well about what kind of a player he'll be at the World Championship.
Like Belgath and stuff coming in.
Pretty much, yeah. And I think just in terms of the characteristics Kanavi has, right, very well-rounded player, mechanically super good, hits the beats, in the context of like pressuring around bot and making sure bot is there for success. I think that the trio on the bottom side, I think there's no one sharper, but you can give credit to anyone on JDG. I think Kanavi is just a well-rounded player, and for me, I put him on the top end.
Yeah. All right, we go 5?
Let's go 5. Here I have Mr. 369.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's a number.
Yeah, so Knight.
So it goes to the right.
Right? Oh, shit, whatever.
All right. Interesting. I like this. Yeah. I like what you've done. I like it.
Okay, so Knight, I think, also falls into the same category as Kanavi, where I don't think he had a great regular season. I think that he had a lot of pretty bad games. I mean, you think about his anti, there was a period where he was just missing every anti ult. Every game he was missing every single anti ult somehow, and they were still winning. But I just didn't think that he had the same level of precision that the people I have above him have. I acknowledge that he can be the best player in the entire world. I just don't think he played well enough recently to put him over somebody like Scout, for example. I think Scout didn't have the luxury of having bad games. If Knight played the same way he did on JDG on LNG, then LNG is getting 5th or 6th or something like that. So I think Knight was getting by his teammates being so good in summer most of the time, and I couldn't put him any higher than 5th with the way that I did the list, valuing summer and summer playoffs so highly.
Fair, 100%. I think his summer was fairly weak, and what was the All Pro list for LPL? Scout had to have gotten first, right?
He got MVP. I know that.
He got an MVP because I remember I thought that was crazy that Knight was up there, but maybe my memory serves me wrong.
Yeah, that was. I don't remember if that was. No, that was this split as well.
So it's like my chat is confirming that Knight
was number 1, but Scout was MVP. Yeah, I don't like that.
And that was strange to me. I remember having like a bit of a reaction on that because Knight did not have like, he was fine, but he's not a player that should be fine, and he's capable of a lot more. And I agree with the notion 100% that he got away with a lot more because I'm assuming the 2 mid laners that we still have left, right, Scout and Chovy, like they had to fucking bleed and really cover their own wounds and get through fucking hellfire to get to the points that they did.
For sure.
All right, 369 for me. I appreciate the take though, that putting 369 above Knight. I appreciate that a lot. I think 369 in terms of I think 369 at this point just speaks for himself. Considering you put him higher, I can let you run with it, and we can talk about it when it comes.
I have one higher, so we can just talk about it right here.
Okay. I think 369. Even I know that for most, it's like people think of him as the goated tank player, and I think he for sure is. I can also see him like being fucking good at some of the other champions that might be relevant too. It's like if Renekton, like GP, it's like this guy has range. It's just that he has been defined in the role that he's in, and he plays that role better than anyone could fucking imagine on what JDG needs. You press tab, you see your teammates, he does it perfect, and even more so.
Yeah, I love 369. I love the way that he plays. I think that he is the ideal top laner that people want to play with, right? No, people get scared playing with carry top laners. People don't want to have like Jax in a pro game a lot of the time unless the Jax player is really, really insane or they're in a fucking insane matchup or something like that. 369 is the guy that it doesn't matter what happens, he will always be stable, and he just team fights better than anyone else. When I watch him play, I just think he understands vision so well as a top laner. He understands like which waves to drop, sitting in a bush with a red trinket, waiting for a perfect time to follow something up. The way that he plays and spaces around carries is the best I've ever seen in my entire time watching this game from a top laner. Like, he just understands exactly who needs to be CC'd at what points, when his carries need to hit, when he needs to walk up, how much damage to take, when to actually stop taking damage and position further back in the fights. Like, his understanding of all these key elements of team fights is I think, the best of all time. So that's why I have him so high.
Yep. Amen, brother. Fucking amen. I have Knight right next to him here. I agree with the notion of what you mentioned before. I don't think he had the strongest summer. I put him in a similar box to Kanavi. I think, even in some of those Annie games, it's like his Annie ults missed until there came a point where it hit and it was the crucial point of the game, and then he won. I think, without talking about what the meta is coming into the World Champions, because I think that's going to be good for him. I think Knight, his Jace performances, some of the Syndra games that he played, I think he had fantastic Nico games too. I think that, what Knight has that Chovy doesn't, I think, is just that layer of being capable of playing the champions that require you to be a lot more dynamic in your play, while Chovy is the player that has so much dominance through lane, and I think that's where his strongest qualities always show. But I feel like the main thing for Chovy that makes me put him above Knight at this point in time is Knight's weaker summer, and also Chovy showing a different side to himself, specifically in that, for example, Talia game or some of the Yon games, where he was capable of going beyond his standard pattern of winning games, where it was like get the farm, get the numbers, squeeze the enemy opponent, and then just carry through the sheer force of having gold and strong mechanics. Now I feel like he has a wider range of gameplay, but more on that when it comes to Chovy. I think just Knight, very well-rounded mid lane, very strong mid laner. I don't think that he walks into any matchup against anyone else being some kind of a weak point. I think that just a very well-rounded player.
Yeah, definitely. All right, 3?
I got Chovy here.
I've got Scoot.
Okay. Talk to me, Scout.
All right, so Scout, I mean, this guy I think is probably one of the most underrated players that we've seen recently. I think that game that he had against Zika, that game 5 where he ran it down, just is so stuck in everyone's mind that they can't appreciate how well he played. This guy's a fucking beast. You give him Azir, he's gonna fucking smurf. You give him anything, like, it just feels like the form he was in. He's one of those Xiaohu type players where it just feels like he understands how to fucking win games. Like, he just has that winner's edge. And yeah, I thought he was a beast. I have Chovy slightly higher, which I guess is the point here, where you have Chovy lower than Scout, assuming that you didn't leave Scout off top 25. You know, you have Chovy lower than Scout. It's one of those things where, like, I think that Chovy is a better player, but I think that Scout will play worse at Worlds. And since I was evaluating just based off how I think they played, I think Chovy had like almost perfect summer playoffs, whereas Scout had really good, like top tier, but a little bit lacking in certain games.
I was so disappointed that we didn't get to see a BO5 between BDD and Chovy. Like, I was really, really like praying for that shit, dude. Because that was like the matchup that I really wanted to see. Really like, because I think that would be like the matchup, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
That part was painful to me. For me, as I mentioned before when I talked about Knight, I think Chovy, as I mentioned with Yagao, you know, like he had games where I saw him break out of the shell that I view him in as a player.
Yeah. No, the games that you mentioned, I felt the same way when I was watching Chovy play that like Yone game and like the Talia game. He's okay being down CS now. Like, he'll give 10 CS for a game-winning play, where it felt like he would never do that before. Like, he was just kind of like a robot. Oh, okay, I play mid lane until this point. I go side lane until this point. All right, now I'm strong. I show up to the team fight. Chovy felt like he was just hitting angles that he wasn't hitting before. Like the Q3 flashes on Yone into like, oh, it was like, holy fuck. And then when you think about, like, this is what was so impressive. I mean, this sounds kind of fucked up, but when I saw how bad M&S was with his lead on Yone, it made me appreciate how fucking good Chovy was, because they were playing with the same exact build. And the fact that Chovy was able to get so much off his champion, it looked like his champion's unkillable when he has shield, bow, and even shroud and all this type of stuff. Whereas M&S is just dying instantly every single fucking time. So
yeah, so it's against better players too. It's against better players. No one.
I mean that in the least fucked up way possible.
Yep. No, fucking Chovy's a damn demon. He's a fucking demon.
Yep.
Second for me, I guess this is where the change up happens. I put Ruler second.
Damn. All right. Well, we talk about it all together now because we have our whole list revealed, right? So
I think
boom.
For me, I think Ruler, if my issue with it is that he's playing AD, which is weird. I think Ruler is by far the player that has the biggest gap between himself and everybody else. And it's crazy to think that a player that won Worlds, 6 fucking years ago, is peaking. It's absolutely mental to even think about it. It's like, you have players that play, it's like Gala, let's say Gala performs at a solid 90% every fucking game, which is insane. Then you have like a player like Elk that occasionally he occasionally has like a 95% game and plays lower ranges. Then you have a player like Ruler that like consistently performs at like a 99. It's like his awareness and his vision for when he needs to be fucking going completely psycho. He always spots the right timing in terms of lane phase, in terms of presence, in terms of what he gets out of his champion. I don't think there is a player that is at his level. My main thing against putting Ruler first is just that the nature of his role.
So I guess what I would ask you is,
one.
what I would ask you is, what could Ruler have done to be number one then?
Nothing.
Okay.
That's the crazy thing, you know?
That's pretty much the only answer that like would, yeah, I mean, that's like the based answer. If that's the answer, then I can understand your logic completely.
For me, it's just I look at this tournament and I have such an absurd excitement for what is going on in the mid lane. And for me, when it comes to why I put Scout first, is I think that every fucking game that he's had to play has just been a pursuit for so much. And if I look at his whole year as a context, I feel like he's been so fucking good. And now in coming into summer and also the playoffs, in terms of some of the other things falling into place, I feel like Scout was just waiting for this to happen. Yeah. And if I think about the amount of great games Scout has had, I can't count them on my hand, because every fucking game to me feels like a fucking great Scout game.
Yeah, I mean, he did get his back blown out by OMG in spring, but you know, we can move past that.
That far back, my memory doesn't serve me, but it's just for me. I think it's like what you mentioned before, right? It's like I think Knight got away with more, and in some cases, Scout couldn't get away with fucking anything. It's like he dropped a little bit, everyone fucking felt it, and then additionally, right? I think when it comes to Chovy, the main tricky thing for me when it comes to Chovy is like Chovy, Ruler, Scout. These are fucking let them play against each other. You're not gonna fucking instantly see, this guy Scout is gonna stomp Chovy or Knight now. No. This to me is just looking at Summer and the competition that you had to play against, because that's a crucial detail for me. I feel like the LPL mid laners are so nutty, and that's why it saddens me deeply that we didn't get to see Chovy versus BDD. You know, that's the matchup that I really wanted to see, because those are the two like LCK mid lanes that stood out to me when it came to, of course, LCK in general.
All right, you ready to combine them?
Oh, you don't want to talk to me about Ruler? Fucking let's suck him off like I did, man. Talk to me, say Ruler, Chovy. Give me some fellatio.
To me, he's just the closest thing to a perfect player that we've seen. Like, he's had the best season up until this point that we've ever had, like since maybe season 3 or season 4 Faker. Mm-hmm. If you look at his whole season, he was so consistently good for almost every single game he played. And the thing that pushes him over the edge to me is the fact that when he's now in the pressure situations that it felt like sometimes Ruler would not play the best in, like when he was with Genji, you'd be like, oh, this guy is super insane, goes into Worlds, maybe like game 4 versus DRX, it just didn't feel like he's like the same player. It's like, are you really like come on, you're supposed to be that guy? Now whenever he was in those like game 5s, he's just the best player on the Rift. And I think that just gives me all the fucking confidence in the world in him. I just think that he's just been on top form the entire year. He's so good. He's so ready to carry. And the way that he's adapted to his teammates has also been really impressive, because it goes both ways. Not only has Missing became the ultimate fucking bodyguard for Ruler, Ruler has been ready to fucking fight. Like, everyone was wondering how this matchup was going to work. Like, you have a Chinese team that loves fighting. You have 369 Kanavi and Missing, which was the core of JDG. They're really good at setting up fights. Will Ruler be ready to fight all the time? And it feels like he just completely vibes with his team now. They start a fight, all right, he's in there, he's gonna fucking kill everyone. You know, it's a good engage, he's gonna show why it was a good engage. So this guy, yeah, he's the best player in the world to me.
Yes, sir. I feel that completely. I can see myself putting him first 100%. I get why you would do it 100%. For me, mid is just that's the issue. But I think that in terms of ADC, perfect player, I think you nailed it. He's definitely more perfect than anyone else, if you even look past rules. So I'm in alignment there 100%. We do some combining then, yeah? Or you want to talk Chovy?
I mean, we could talk about Chovy in a bit. I mean, let's
I
do
guess
some
we talked about the
combining.
zone. Let's do the combining. Yeah, let's do the combining.
Yeah.
I guess we could talk
Alright,
about
so-
like some players that we left off too. I guess people are curious, maybe.
Yeah, people are curious. So we already gave context earlier, but like Faker, for example, is somebody who, if I was going to like use intangibles to measure his skill, he's definitely on my list. Like he's just the player on T1 that I would put. He would be the highest player on T1. If you look at his actual gameplay, I don't think he played amazingly when he came back. Obviously, he's injured, but I'm not taking that into account when I'm evaluating a player. You know, you are as good as you're playing, and his play just didn't deserve top 25 in my mind.
Yep. I guess another one could be Canyon. Like Canyon had a rough year. I think that he didn't really find himself. It was like, I feel like he was the poster child of the jungle changes being just terrible for like the amount of agency and skill that you can show through jungle. I feel like Canyon was like the poster child of that. I think when it came to a meta that was rather stagnant in terms of how much skill expression there was, Canyon didn't really find himself, even though he had like occasional good games and he got like a lot of like MVP points. It's like jungle is a position where you want consistency, and Canyon for me is the jungle GOAT because he had a level of consistency in past years that was disturbingly high for a position that required so much, I guess, occasional risk, and he took it so well. Like, well, when you look at some of like the favorite games that stand out from Canyon, is like in terms of how he invades without prior, just to pull people to come to him, and then just exit at the exact time and plays with space and awareness so well. I think historically, Canyon is the go for me, but this year has been rough.
He had too many bad games this year. I don't think he had a good approach to how to play with his teammates. I think for a while he was trying to get the most out of his teammates by kind of fucking himself over in the jungle. For example, we saw like the Scion flexes where it's like, dude, just play like a real fucking champion. Your top laner's not doing anything with the fact that you're flexing it anyway. The Nautilus flex that came in later, it just felt like he wasn't playing to his strengths. He was just trying to, like, he just didn't trust his teammates enough. So he was trying to just put them in like super advantage spots by fucking himself over. Just didn't think it was the correct approach. And yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at the players and I'm making my own list and it's purely off like who I feel is good, then he's definitely making the list. Like he's somebody that I said before I would put him over like Deft, for example. I think he's a better player than Deft. I just think that his performance was too inconsistent and he had too many like really bad games for me to say that he's better than any of the players I have on this list. I think any other player, I would just compare game by game and he would come up, and if I gave a score, a performance score on every single game that they played the whole year, I think he would have lower than anyone else on my list.
A lot of my homies are asking about Caps. It's like Caps for me would be like the 9th best mid laner at this tournament based off of like all that I've seen. And that would put in my mind like Faker at 8th, and that's Caps at 9th.
Yeah,
and
I would have Palafox at 9 and Caps at 10. Just kidding. Don't fucking assassinate me, please.
Is there any adjustments that you would like to make to your list before we do the combined score? Because I think that I would move. I kind of want to put
Yagao. I kind of want to put Yagao over BDD in my last mid lane slot.
I'm moving Peanut down, and then it's like in my mind I feel the need to move on a little bit higher, but I think I'll just leave it as is. I think it'll cause too many complications.
Yeah. All right. So I guess the way that we do this when we combine, like, I mean, are we doing it purely based off like just mathematically, like where we have like the disparity in rankings, or are we just going to like discuss it as well? I think we should do like combination of both.
How about we see how it looks like after the scores, and then we adjust after the fact.
Okay.
So how, do you want to manage it? Because I think if we do it at the same time, I could also just do it.
Yeah, you can do it. Are you just gonna do it like as like, oh, like you're just gonna give it like an actual number score? So because I have ruler 1 and you have 2, you just put 1.5, or like how are you gonna actually do it?
My idea was to just put the points together, and then whoever has the lowest score will be higher.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, that's fine. I was just gonna do the average. It's the same thing. Okay, yeah, let's do it.
So it's like, for example, Ruler would then have a 3, and then Scout Fast would have a 4, and then I would just go down.
Well, I guess just do it on one side, right? It would be.
Yeah.
It would look better. Yeah.
And Chovy is 2, so that puts him on a 5 score.
5.
And then Knight and 4, 5. Knight.
I guess while you do this, I'll put like what the combined score would be, like the ranking here.
Yes, sir. Kanavi, I have 6, 9, so that makes it 15. Better put it on Kanavi. Bin 13. Zika 19. 26.
Okay.
Gala
17.
How about you do from up and I go from down?
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll go from down here.
But,
Yeah, I'll do like Way, for example, 49. I mean, I guess it's gonna be kind of weird when we have people that are left off. 24x. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that's what we'll do. You want me to do from up?
Yeah, do from up. Okay. I'll do from bottom.
All right, so Tarzan, we have what? 8 and 10, 18. Missing is 11 and 9. Oh my god. A lot of 24s.
Oh shit.
Was this 14 and 22?
That's fun to see as well who we left off and who we put in. Yeah,
Wait, did I say 46 or 36? Wait, who am I doing? On. Yeah, 36. Delight 30. And then pays. Is that 60? Okay, 30.
Okay. I'm down to put 369 above Knight.
Okay.
I feel that one. They are the same score, so I peeped that.
All right.
So who's next in
line? Then we have 13 is just Bin.
Then we have 15.
Kanavi.
Am I looking at it wrong? Oh yes,
Kanavi?
I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you have Gala. Tarzan. Then we have the next trio.
The next trio.
Okay, so we have Missing.
I'm down to put
Peanut.
Missing.
Yeah, I'll put Missing. Missing is
Peanut.
Yeah. That's how it has to be. That wasn't even hard at all. That wasn't hard at all. Okay, well, and then we have what? 26 is Zika. Is there anyone lower? 26, right? Zika?
Zika it is, yeah. Then
we have
Yagao.
Yeah. And then we have 30s.
Wait, did I count right on Yagao? Let me see here. You put Yagao on 18. Yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have the 30s.
Delight
pays.
Ooh, that's so hard though.
I'm fine either way. You can choose.
I don't know, man, because we both just have them right next to each other. Pays Delight and then Delight pay. I feel like it doesn't matter, right?
I feel like the finals are so hype, so let's just put Delight there, man.
Yeah, okay, sure.
36, we have Zeus.
And we have On, right?
Oh, On as well.
Yeah, we also have On.
I'm down to put On above that.
Yeah, I'll put On over Zeus.
Because in the end I feel like I put On too low anyway on my list. I feel like.
Okay.
Then we have 39, which is.
We have what? We have 36. Okay, we did 36.
Shun.
We have 37, which is Elk.
Oh, okay, I miss him. And then Shun. And then we have.
46.
And then this is where we don't have the agreement.
So I think the ones that are left off completely, we just put them at the end. So this would just be.
It's like Gumayushi. I put 25. Who else did we?
20. We put in.
So I kept BDD, but that's like where the mid lane thing will happen, right? It's like on my end, that's where the blocker is, right? It's like I just have
so
more
we'll
mid
put them at
laners.
the end. So let's put the other people that actually have scores. So we'll just put Mickey X and then Weiwei.
Yep.
Mickey X, Weiwei, and then we have our last three as Guma, BDD, Showmaker. What looks right to you?
I guess Korea should be here, and then Keen, Deft, and then do we have all six, yeah? That we don't have the both of us. So in what order would you put these homies? Now that you have expanded your list beyond like, let's say, like I would put BDD right away, right?
Yeah, I'll put BDD first, okay? I think when I'm looking at this, I think Showmaker is last to me.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's like on my end, right? It's like I just evaluate the regional finals performance so highly, because I try to like look at teams in a way where I was like, why are they here? You know, that's how I viewed them, and I can see that argument weighing actually heavier for Deft if you look at the whole year. So I can accept that Showmaker being at the bottom. I can accept that.
Okay, I guess we delete BDD because we've placed him.
Yep.
Guma, Keria, Keen, Deft. I mean, I think that I can compromise on Guma for sure. I can put Guma 24th here, I guess.
Okay. That makes me happy. Okay.
All right. And then what do we have? We have Keria, Keen, Deft, Showmaker.
I'm looking at these homies.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like Keen makes the most sense.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like Keen. I was gonna say the same thing. So I agree with Keen. I think it's Keen, Keria, Deft, Showmaker. What do you think?
It's like I can easily see the arguments for Korea, and the reason I put him off the list was just due to his performance, you know. And I can still see easily a world where Korea is going to perform super good because he's just insanely talented, and so like I'm indifferent about Korea. It's like in the end I made a choice, and I can see both choices being fine, you know. So I'm definitely fine with that ordering that you mentioned.
So if you had Keria. If you did have Keria, would you have him as last, or would you have him like in between Deft and Showmaker? Because we've established that Showmaker or Deft is above Showmaker. So where does Keria slot in when you compare him to Deft or Showmaker?
I guess it's like if I would follow the logic of my own list, Keria would be like 26th, you know? He would be like right there, 26, 27. So I don't mind at all letting Keria come in there.
Okay, let's go Keria, Deft, Showmaker.
I think it's cool, yeah.
28. We did a top 28 at the end. And I guess for the screenshot for like Twitter or some shit.
Yes, sir.
Move all the scores.
Oh, the teamwork as well.
Damn,
honestly,
bro.
the combined score actually like made plenty of sense, and then it's like whatever there was clashes, we figured it out so quick.
Damn. No, that's a fucking good one, bro. I like this stream. This was a solid one. It got me hyped for Worlds, you know?
Yeah, same. This is kind of gas. Well, I like this a lot. Yeah. Is there any other player that like people are confused about that we left off? I think Canyon, Caps, Faker are like the big ones. I don't really think there's anybody else, right? That anyone is like, you know, passionate about. I think that's cool.
Should we do this? Should we... whatever. Nah, it's fine.
I can maybe
like 26.
Just copy paste.
Oh my god, you're the goat. Is that better? Does that look better or no? Is what I was trying to decide. Oh, Doran. Like for me, Doran, he's a weird player because when I watch him play, like his thing is he's just like early picking Jax. I don't think he's that good on Jax. He gets away with it. He does this weird proxy thing, like always level 3, dies for it half the time. I don't know, man. I just, for some reason with Dorian, I think I'm just biased against him. I just don't think he's good. And that's why I don't have him on the list.
I think Dorian had the best year of his career. I just don't think. Like it's weird, but because he's had games that have been great, specifically against Zeus. That's always what has happened. It's like his games against Zeus are the ones that just increase his stock. But
of course,
I think
and
largely otherwise, he's not an important player for the team, I feel like.
And for me, the thing that's so funny there, that I think shows how people perceive it, is when Zeus plays bad against Doran, most of the time people just say Zeus is a choker. Zeus just chokes finals. They don't say, oh, Doran's maybe the GOAT, or like Doran's just better than Zeus. It always feels like it's a Zeus underperformance rather than a Doran overperformance. I think the exception would be the 2 Gragas games. But even if you consider the 2 Gragas games, like, he didn't play great. Like, he was getting solo killed later on in that series. So I don't know. Doran, for me, I don't really believe in him. I mean, for my money, I think he's just the worst player on Gen G.
Honestly, yeah.
Yike. So for me, Yike had too many bad games. Like, if we're doing it the way that we just spoke about, we're talking about Summer, Yike gets away with murder so often, where he'll make a really bad play, and because his team is so good, he'll recover almost instantly. But I think that those plays are going to be really damning if he makes them versus better teams. There was a period in Summer Split, I think out of like the 9 games they played, he might have died in enemy jungle 3 or 4 games, which is like almost half the games you're invading and dying. That just doesn't fly on better teams. And I think that when he plays against better competition, he's going to have to step up. I think at MSI, he did step up. So that's a good sign. But if we're evaluating based on their actual games, I don't think there's any Western player that deserves to be on this list besides for Mickey X.
Yep. I think the Yike had that. He had his Kanavi in Europe, but not with the illustrious past of and potential of Kanavi yet, because Yike is on his first year. But he definitely had that. He gets away with things. I think his finals was super good, and we know that he's very capable. And I think that when people compare, like when people looked at, for example, MSI and talked about what G2 can do internationally, I think the biggest pain will always be felt in the positions that will be the most important coming into the tournament. And I think specifically at MSI and what the jungle meta was, I think that you don't get punished for your mistakes as harshly as a jungler, because there is less micro decisions that you have to make, especially in those metas. Like if you have to play like fucking Nidalee Graves, it's like you can just lose the game because you do some dumbass shit, right? You make a mistake and you lose the game. The enemy like plans something out, you get completely fucked. But if you are laning against a player that is better than you, that will be so much more clear than you jungling against a player that might be better than you in certain metas, right? And that's true for certain metas all across the board. When it's tank meta top, it's very, very different. Or when metas are stale in general, you don't see that same level of exposure. And I think regardless of what the meta will be, in which direction it will be, I think in those positions that will be weighed the heaviest, that will be where it will be super, super tough for any player coming out of the West, I think.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like, it doesn't matter what position is strong. No matter what position is strong, the West will always be gapped in that position.
Yeah. I've been fighting this narrative that, oh, top laners are weak. I don't think this is like real, you know? Because
yeah, no, for sure.
We saw like if AD carry is gonna be the biggest position at the tournament, then all of a sudden, you know, you will feel the weight of it, you know? It's like MSI, you saw Elk and fucking Ruler swinging their big ass dicks because they had like the most important role, and there will be dick swinging, and regardless of which position you're gonna be showing up in.
Yeah, bro, fucking Asian players, they fucking slang some dick, bro. At these internationals, it's fucking crazy, bro. God damn,
that's gonna be sick.
Fuck, bro. Look, it's gonna be a tough Worlds. I'm gonna just say it right now. We're doing this list. There's one Western player for a reason. It's gonna be a tough Worlds. The lucky thing is that the Swiss format is actually so bad that you're almost guaranteed a Western team to make it out. So that'll be where we hang our hats. That team will get swiftly eliminated in quarterfinals, and then we'll just watch LCK versus LPL again. Perfect.
Yes, sir. Thank God that we get a little BDS versus GG action. I was on Euphoria. I already talked my points about this one. I'm curious to hear your side, your vision of this matchup. What do you think, Dom?
So I think BDS is actually favored. The more I think about it, I think BDS is actually favored. So just is what it is. Like when I watch Golden Guardians, my biggest issue is how hard they rely on certain combos. We saw it in playoffs where when shit hit the fan, they have to go back to Jarvan Talia. Like they just weren't able to perform. I think bot lane is going to be a big issue for Golden Guardians. I think they're going to get outclassed bot lane. The way Golden Guardians plays bot lane is relatively cheesy. They kind of just wait to level 3, Hu He flashes on you, and if you fuck up, then they can get a lead, and then Hu He will just leave Stixay and do his own thing. But I don't think that they're actually as good as BDS as a team, and I think that there's specific bans that BDS can do to completely neuter Golden Guardians, such as Jarvan, such as Rumble.
Okay. Yeah, my main question, right, that I posed, right, coming into to everything is I think BDS is the team that has played better. I think that in terms of like laning, I agree 100% that Golden Guardians are very like dishonest in terms of how they lane bot, and I think that often in terms of how like who he plays the game, it's like Stixay like doesn't like it or something. Like he burns sums, he dies. Like I don't know how many games Golden Guardians like Stixay just dies while Hui, let's say, he's like burning flash mid and he's coming down bot and there's like a wave stacking towards him, he will be on time. And then Stixay just decides to walk up and then it's like, oh, he gets hooked out of the bush and it's like, oh, unlucky, I lost sums. And I think this could be like a crucial point. I think that a big thing for me about BDS, I think that Nuke had the best games that he has ever played in my mind in the BO5s at the end of the season. So that's like makes me very hopeful for BDS on that side. I think if Golden Guardians get their shit together, it's like if River and Gory and like take control over the game through mids, I think that's like a way where they could like potentially suffocate BDS. And then my main question is, it's like BDS didn't have a lot of time in Korea to prepare, and this is a tournament where like this is a best of 5. They're walking into best of 5 against a team that has so much fucking experience under their belt. And I think those things are going to matter. And that's the main reason for me why I think it might be close, even though I think BDS, strictly gameplay-wise, I think they're favored.
It's a weird situation because when there's this much preparation going into a best of 5, game 1 can really affect the mentality of teams because you don't know what the other team is actually practicing. You hear some rumors from scrims, whatever, but you might go into this best of 5 and just get hit with something game 1 that you aren't expecting, and it can completely skew how you prepare for game 2, and it can snowball the entire series. There's going to be a lot of mental fortitude that the loser of game 1 is going to need in order to come back into the series. But when I just evaluate both teams, I just think that BDS is a deeper team. So if they do end up losing a game 1, I think that they can go to more different strategies in order to find a way to win than Golden Guardians can. It feels like Golden Guardians kind of needs to like all in fight in order to win.
I think the something that has been talked about a lot is the whole like the Licorice Adam matchup. It's like this is the one that people are the most excited about. I feel like Licorice has been fairly solid. I think in my mind he was a strong performer for the majority of it. It's like Golden Guardians collapsed, Gory and River played like shit. I don't put that really on Licorice. Like I was about to say that he's like the strongest top laner coming out of North America, but I think probably like Summit is up there too in terms of like individual play, but I think Licorice has the other aspects going for him, right? Like he just is a lot more variance, like a lot more not variance, but a deeper champion pool, can pick for what is necessary for the draft and can like be impactful in this way, while Summit is just like this big 3 set champions the whole tournament and just lane well, like that's his MO, right? But what's strange for me with Adam and with BDS is that I feel like it is very sad for me to see that he keeps, like, I think instead of letting him keep those pocket picks as like an edge and a potential like gun that hasn't been drawn yet, they are walking into every like a lot of the games with that just being like the bullet they want to fire right away. While I think Adam as a player, like his Renekton, Aatrox, Gwen. Like he plays the standard shit well, and I wish to see more of that expanded rather than trying to make it weird, you know? I hope this is something that like BDS has actually like focused on, because I know that Adam can do this from watching him play like in Champions Queue and also like solo queue. Like he's a strong player when it comes to the standard game, but has always pivoted into either he plays like the Garen Darius's or whatever, or he plays like a tank and just fucking roams around and does silly shit, you know?
I can't stand the mid roams, man. Like at some point it was like kind of cool. It was like, oh, he's doing his own thing, but there's some times where like he's roaming mid and it just throws the entire game. So I mean, what Adam needs to do is he needs to pick his champions and he needs to just stomp Licorice. Like Licorice is not gonna have experience into a lot of those matchups. Just pick your Olaf, pick your Darius, ban Rumble, and play from there. I think Rumble is the key when it comes to Golden Guardians. If they don't ban Rumble, I think BDS is gonna have a really tough time.
Yep. Rumble is strong as shit, man.
Yep. And it's just something that I think counters the whole Adam champion pool. What can Adam play that's good into Rumble? Like, Olaf is supposed to be bad into it. Darius is not good into it. Renekton is not good into it. Tanks are not good into it. What does he play into it?
Yep.
That's the issue.
Yep.
All right, man.
Okay. I think I'm liking our list. It's like the only thing that maybe we would put like BDD higher. Like, what was your score on BDD before?
I had him 18 instead of Miguel.
18, 17. It's like he would be like above Zeus, like here somewhere, you know?
Yeah,
so,
he would.
And then everything else would move down, but I'm not gonna adjust that. I just wanted to say it out
loud.
All
right, sure. Down. We're gonna post this on Twitter.
You want to go for it? Slam it.
All right.
I'll retweet it.
All
that good stuff.
Okay, perfect. Let's do it.
My man, do I see you in a couple of hours?
Yeah, I'll see you in a few, bro.
You're gonna sleep? What are you gonna do?
No, I'm staying up.
You're staying up. Shit. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna try to catch some Z's. But yeah, I just so everybody knows, I'm gonna co-stream. Yeah, I need to say that out loud because the announcement hasn't been made, but I need to say it out loud because people don't know, you know. I'll be co-streaming. Sure. We'll co-stream the whole fucking World Championship. Sack it up, baby. I'm so excited for this tournament. The whole time. Holy moly, though.
All right, bro.
It's been good hearing your voice, brother.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a fun one. Peace.
I'll see you tomorrow, brother. See you.
Peace.
All right, homies. It's gonna be sick, man. It's gonna be sick.